Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Kate Lombardo. I am the Content Marketing Manager here at Main Street ROI, and we are very excited today to be presenting the 4 pillars of successful digital marketing. So we'll get through these slides here. So some general housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, you can post them in the Q&A section in the GoToWebinar window. We'll save the questions for the end, and then we'll have some time for the Q&A where Phil, our presenter, can answer your questions, and I'll be monitoring them throughout to make sure that there's no major connectivity issues or things of that nature. The next thing we recommend is turn off distractions. So it can always be easy to check email, Facebook, all of those types of fun distractions that haunt us throughout the workday, but we always find you get more out of these presentations if those can be turned off. And then we also wanted to start off with a poll. So if poll should come up for you and can let us know who is on today. So are you currently currently working with a marketing agency or consultant? And you can select yes, no, or you are an agency or a consultant. Give people some time to get responses in here. All right, and another poll here to start us off. So we're asking, what is your monthly digital marketing budget for this year? Another minute or two to respond to that.
Kate, I just realized you can't see these results, so I will rattle off. So less than 500, we've got 23%, 20%-ish, 500 to 1,000, 23%, 1,000 to 2,000, 6%, 2 to 3,000, and 28% more than 3,000 a month digital marketing budget. And I will close that out. And there was just one more question here that you should see.
Okay, so we've got, what other digital marketing channels are you currently using?
Give it time to settle out here. Hopefully I set that up correctly, and you can choose more than one. That has been messed up before, but it looks like it's working. Okay, it's settled out. 63% are using Google AdWords or Bing ads, 61% using Facebook ads, 67% using email marketing, which is always good to see. That's actually becoming more and more popular, or maybe it's just with our audience, because I emphasize that. 58% using social media. 24% said other, but I don't see anyone typing into the questions box, so I don't know what you're using there. I'm going to close that out, and we can move on here.
All right, so a little bit about us. We are Main Street ROI. Our mission is to empower small businesses and all businesses to be successful. We provide digital marketing services focusing on SEO, AdWords, Facebook advertising, and email marketing. And then another big focus of our business is training. We have obviously free trainings like this webinar. We also offer some more in-depth paid trainings, and we do one-on-one consulting as well to help educate businesses on how to use digital marketing to grow their business. Okay, and at this time, I'll hand it over to Phil, whose voice you just heard on the poll. He is our presenter for today. So Phil, I'll let you take it from here.
All right, thanks, Kate. So if this is your first training with Main Street ROI, you're probably wondering, who the heck am I? Why should you listen to me? Again, my name is Phil Frost, the founder of Main Street ROI. And as Kate mentioned, our business provides digital marketing services like SEO, online advertising, email marketing. And we also provide a lot of training like this training you're on today. And to date, we've helped over 2,000 businesses with their digital marketing. And my thought leadership has been featured in Forbes, Inc., Amex, as well as Mashable. And I'm also the proud father of these cute kids here. That's Violet on the left. She's 4.5. Emmett on the right, he's about 2.5 and getting a little bit too heavy to carry with one arm. And that's my beautiful wife, Erin, who just celebrated her birthday yesterday. So that was fun. We got to get a nice chocolate cake, which the kids loved. And this picture was taken on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, which we live nearby this restaurant here. And you can see that was at a birthday party. That was actually Emmett's second-year birthday party. All right, so let's dive in. We're going to go through the 4 pillars of successful digital marketing. And actually, before we get started here, I want to make sure, Kate, you can see the questions. I'm not sure you can. I just made you an organizer.
Oh, yes, there we go. Thanks for that, Bill.
All right, perfect. All right, so let's dive in here. Here's what we're going to cover. Obviously, introduction to the 4 pillars. We'll get to that in a minute. We'll walk through the top website traffic sources that I would recommend. We'll walk through areas to improve your website sales conversion rates. We'll talk about how to track your digital marketing. And I do have a special offer for all the attendees today. And Kate mentioned we have live Q&A as well. All right, so let's dive into the 4 pillars. And this graph here, you don't have to memorize this. I found this several years ago. I was doing some research. You can see it's from a company called Luma, which we are not affiliated with, but just found this online and thought it was a great representation of how complicated digital marketing has become. You can see in the upper left-hand corner there, email optimization, email service providers, sales automation, marketing automation, upper right-hand corner, social marketing management, so all the tools for social media. In the middle there's website. A little bit below that is e-commerce, and the list kind of goes on and on. This is actually, this screenshot didn't even fit on the slide. It's actually being cut off here. So the whole point of the slide is just to emphasize how complicated and how many tools and different tactics there are out there with regards to digital marketing. And that leads to the question of why you need the 4 pillars. So there's really too many digital marketing options out there. I talk to a lot of business owners each week, and the majority are definitely overwhelmed because of all of the options out there. You're probably receiving emails every single day from a service provider trying to pitch you the latest tool out there. I even get pitched every day. You're probably getting calls every day. And the reality is it's overwhelming. The other reality is that all activity does not lead to more sales. So just because someone's calling you up, selling you on the latest and greatest social media tool or widget that you should add to your website, doesn't mean that's actually going to drive more leads and more sales for your business. So what I came to realize is that a lot of businesses need just a simplified framework to prioritize everything that's out there. And that's why I put together the 4 pillars. And the 4 pillars are based on this formula here, which is revenue. So how much revenue you're going to make from your marketing is equal to T times C times V. And T in this case is traffic. So that's the website traffic. C is conversion rate. And a website conversion rate is how many sales divided by the traffic. And then V is the value of your customer. So regardless of what business you're in, whether it's B2C, B2C, whatever industry you're in, this formula holds true. The revenue you're going to make from your website is the traffic multiplied by the conversion rate, multiplied by the average value of those customers. And once you realize that that is the formula, that leads you to the 4 pillars. So the first pillar is traffic. Second pillar is your website conversion rate. Third pillar is your customer value. And the fourth pillar, which I like to call the ugly duckling of digital marketing, is tracking. And it's the least exciting of the 4 pillars, but without tracking, you unfortunately don't know what's actually working. You would not know how much traffic you're getting. You wouldn't know how to improve your conversion rate, and you wouldn't be able to calculate the value of your customer. So you absolutely need tracking to make it all work. All right, so why do you need all 4? Obviously, you need traffic. That's definitely not, you're not going to debate that. But you also need a really good conversion rate. You need to convert that traffic into leads and sales. You can actually get a lot of traffic to your site, and if it's not relevant, if it's not your ideal customer, then that's not going to turn into leads and sales. So you will have a low conversion rate. You also need, and this is, I would say, a kind of a lesser known side of digital marketing, you really do need to have a solid value per customer to make a lot of digital marketing channels work for your business. And that's where a lot of businesses can get confused. If you see a competitor or some other business that you're monitoring and you're wondering, hey, how do they afford to buy those ads? They're too expensive for me. Well, the reality is they probably have a higher value per customer, so it's actually profitable for their business. And I already mentioned this, you have to track in order to continually improve each of those other 3 pillars, the traffic, conversion, and value. All right, so now we're going to dive into each of these pillars. So the first pillar is website traffic. And if you're just getting started, this is definitely where you need to start. Obviously, if you're not getting any traffic, there's no point in focusing on your conversion and your customer value because there's nothing to really, there's no one coming to your website to actually convert. So that's the #1 priority for a lot of businesses, especially if you're just getting started. And the goal here in this pillar is to find the marketing channels out there, all those different options that will send qualified prospects for your business to your website month after month. So that's the goal. And the key word there is qualified. You want to make sure you're using the marketing channels that are getting the qualified prospects for your product or service. And here are the top 5 traffic sources that I would recommend. First and foremost would be SEO. I'm sure everyone online has heard of SEO. The beauty of search engine optimization is that when people go to Google or Bing and they type in, that they're looking for your product or service, you're getting somebody at that moment that they need your product or service. It's the similar situation back about 20, 30 years ago was the Yellow Pages. So when I was growing up, believe it or not, we didn't even have Google. I didn't have the old interwebs. We had to call restaurants or call a plumber whenever we needed that service or that food. So what I would do is actually go into the Yellow Pages, flip to, let's say, the plumber section, and then and call that service. And the only reason you're going to the Yellow Pages is because you need a product or service. And the same thing is true when people are now going to Google instead of those yellow pages. So that the reason that it works so well is because of the intent behind those searches. And if you're not familiar with SEO, you get your website to rank on the first page when people are actually searching for your product or service. And when people click on your listing, you don't pay for that listing. It's totally free once you are ranking. Not to say that SEO is a free marketing tactic, because it does take time and effort to get ranked. But once you are ranked, you don't have to pay when people click and they go to your website. And that's important to understand, because the other way to do it, or in addition to SEO, is you can also advertise. So online advertising is another great tactic, more specifically search advertising. Because again, if you can advertise in Google when someone is searching at that moment for your product or service, you can get your business on the first page, right in that #1 spot, #2 spot, #3 spot. Get that prospect to click on your ad, go over to your site, and get them to convert. And again, the reason that works very well for a lot of businesses is because of the intent behind those searches. With online advertising, the difference here is you are paying every time someone clicks on your ad, and that's why you'll hear people say pay per click advertising, or PPC advertising. Oh, before I move on with online advertising, somebody actually mentioned, Ryan, you said you're doing display ads, static, and video. So the other type of advertising out there is display advertising. So I just recommended search advertising because the intent behind that is so strong. But the other side of advertising is display, and that can work well for a lot of businesses. And it all depends on the targeting. So with search, the targeting is the keyword, because somebody's searching for your product or service. You target that keyword, get your business to show up. It's very similar to the yellow pages. With display, it's more similar to print ads. And if you think about successful print ad campaigns, the key is targeting. If you can target people reading, if your target market is reading a particular magazine, and you can have an ad in that magazine and get your business in front of those folks, that can be very valuable and can actually turn into leads and sales. And that same thing can happen online, but now you're targeting web pages. So you can target web pages contextually based on what that web page is about. You can also target individual people behaviorally based on what those folks are doing online. And then the ad networks can allow you to target different behaviors. For example, I like football. I might go to ESPN a lot and read the latest football scores. That behavior makes it very easy for Google to learn that I'm interested in football. So if someone was wanting to target people who are interested in football, you could target that particular behavior and show ads to people like me. So those are two types of targeting that you can use on the display network, and that's how to be successful with display versus search. You're really targeting people who are searching for your product or service. So I definitely wanted to clarify those different types of online ads. All right, the third traffic source, which in my experience is underutilized in most businesses, and that's referral partners. And a referral partner, most people are familiar with this. It's another business that will refer you leads and sales. And the key here is to just think about your target market and think about other businesses that are already catering to your target market. And then you need to do the research, find those businesses, reach out to them, and see if it makes sense to form some kind of referral relationship. So that definitely goes beyond traditional online marketing. It gets into offline relationship building with that other business. But then as far as how you're going to refer, you can refer business via email marketing. So the other business could recommend you via their email list. You could do webinars together, like this webinar you're on today. You could do a webinar like this to another company's audience, get exposure to that audience. You can also share content like a article, do a guest blog article on your partner's website, and now you're getting exposure to their audience, and then have a link in that article back to your website, and that could give you that referral traffic. Next one on the list is a hot topic, social media marketing. Everyone knows what that is. And the elephant in the room here would be Facebook. They're the biggest social media site. And I will be the first to admit, I was not a big fan of social media when it first came out, and definitely had a lot of skepticism. But over the years, I've been convinced that you can make social media work. And I have seen success, especially with Facebook and Facebook ads in particular. Their targeting is pretty powerful, and you're able to, again, this is more display advertising, and the targeting is critical. But with Facebook, people are putting a lot of data into their profiles. And as you can imagine, that allows advertisers like us to get very specific in terms of who exactly we want to target. So you can start targeting demographically based on age, gender, geographic location, and then you get into things like interests, because Facebook tracks, what you like on Facebook and what different articles that you're clicking on. So all of that data is collected and allows advertisers like us to get very specific in our ad campaigns. And this last one is for all the businesses that are doing more traditional marketing, like direct mail, print, radio, TV. It's really a no-brainer to integrate your online marketing with those campaigns. A lot of people will just prefer to, let's say, rather than calling, if that's your call to action, they might prefer to go to a specific URL and go to a landing page to learn more and actually convert there. So having that additional response mechanism in your offline marketing can be a great way to drive more leads and sales from those marketing channels. And it's all fully trackable, getting those campaigns integrated with your website. You'll be able to track those leads and sales and tie them back to the actual offline channel. I did see a quick question here from Daphne. How important is Bing compared to Google in terms of SEO? I will touch on that. So generally what I recommend is you focus on Google. They have the biggest market share. And from an SEO perspective, doing everything correctly for Google will basically take care of Bing. And then from an advertising perspective, you definitely want to start with Google, again, because they have the biggest market share, get an ad campaign working in Google, and then you just take that ad campaign, replicate that over to Bing. You'll likely need to make some tweaks and optimize it separately, but at least you'll be starting from a good position because you've optimized it on Google first. All right, for each of these pillars, we'll have a take action slide like this. This is just to summarize my recommendations. So with this first pillar, traffic, I recommend everyone set up what I call your SEO foundation. And that means first researching relevant keywords, and you can use Google's keyword planner tool to do that research. Then you want to optimize your core pages, and core pages are for a service-oriented business. It's really the specific service pages. For an e-commerce business, it's your product pages where you're actually going to make those sales. So it's really another word for this, your money pages. You want to optimize those core pages first. Then for businesses that are looking to attract local customers, clients, or patients, you want to get set up in all of the major business directories. You're definitely familiar with Yelp. That's a big one that you would want to get set up in. Best of the Web is another big one. So that can take a little bit of research to find business directories that are specific to your industry. For example, AVVO is a attorney-specific industry. So if you're a lawyer, you would definitely want to get set up in AVO. And then there are also geographic-specific business directories. For example, we have clients in Long Island, and there are Long Island-specific business directories that are just for Long Island businesses. You'll want to get set up in those. And then lastly, again, for businesses looking to attract local customers and clients, you want to build what are called citations. And that's one of the big reasons why you want to get set up in business directories that creates a citation. A citation is a mention of your name, address, and phone number. That will help you it'll help you to rank higher when people are searching for a company near your store or office. And then most people are familiar with building links for SEO. That is also extremely important if you want to rank high in Google. You want to get other businesses that are relevant to your business to link to your website. And the other area I would recommend you focus. So again, lay your SEO foundation, get that set up correctly. And then I would also look at testing Google AdWords search. And I already mentioned test Google first, then move over to Bing. And then I also mentioned the difference between search and display. And display can certainly work, but with search, again, people are literally searching for your product or service. You'll tend to have higher conversion rates, and you'll be able to test that more quickly and just see if things are working. And then you can expand from there, expand to more search with Bing, and expand to display with Google AdWords and even Facebook. Okay, so that's pillar number one. Pillar number two is website conversion. And this is definitely an area that I feel a lot of businesses ignore. So most people, when they think of digital marketing, they think, how can I get more website traffic? So how can I drive more people to my website? And the reality is, if you are already getting traffic, a bigger leverage point for you is likely improving your website conversions. Because if you're getting, let's say, 500 visitors a month, and you're getting 2 sales, if you can double that conversion rate and get 4 sales each month, then you will have doubled your sales with no more investment in driving more traffic. And that's really where a lot of the costs are associated. You'll spend money on advertising and spend money on SEO, That's the bulk of your marketing money driving that traffic to your site. So you could keep those constant and make some tweaks to your website, improve that conversion rate, and now double the sales, double the revenue you're generating from the same amount of website traffic. So it's a huge leverage point if, of course, you have traffic. And the goal here is pretty obvious. You want to increase the number of leads and sales from the existing website traffic. And you can boil down conversion rate into 3 core areas. These are really the areas that I would recommend focusing on. First is your website copy and layout. And from there, I would recommend looking at your call to action, or CTA. Again, I find a lot of businesses just don't have a clear call to action. You get to the website, and as the business owner, you think, hey, it's obvious. If they want to do business with me, they will call the number which is located in the footer of our website. But as a brand new visitor to the website, I will have no idea, and I won't realize that the phone number is even in the footer. So make sure, if the call to action is to place a phone call, you make that phone number just blatantly obvious right when you land on that page. You should be able to see it and likely have it multiple times on the page. Next would be social proof. A common question I receive is, how many reviews should I show on my website or on a particular page? And the short answer is as many as possible. There's, I'm not sure there's a study out there that has ever proven that there's such thing as too many testimonials or too many reviews. In most cases, or in any study that I've ever seen, adding more testimonials, more reviews, generally is going to increase your conversion rates. It's going to increase the trust when people come to the website, because the vast majority of website visitors are going to be extremely skeptical when they land on your site. And that's just the reality of doing business online. I know personally, I'm extremely skeptical of any new website that I visit. And I really don't lose that skepticism until I see that other people have done business with this company. Ideally, I find that on the business website. If I don't, then I will search the internet and try to find it elsewhere. And you can be sure that your prospective customers are doing the same thing. And the next thing is related to your website design. And you want it to be responsive. And this is becoming more and more important. Google has already made some adjustments to their algorithm as far as how they're handling ranking websites when people are searching on their mobile devices. There are such things as mobile signals now. And in the near future, they're now predicting in 2018, Google is going to move to what's called a mobile first index. So that means instead of going to your desktop version to see how well you should rank, Google is going to go to your mobile version to see how well you should rank. And that is a huge change that has not happened yet. I do want to clarify that, but it is predicted to happen in 2018. So if you have not yet invested in the mobile version of your website and you don't have a mobile responsive website, I would highly recommend you make that a big priority in Q4. All right, the next area is what's called a lead magnet. And I'm sure you've seen these on websites. Examples are free reports. So if you ever go to a website and they're offering you a free report, a free white paper, you may have wondered about this on our website. We offer a lot of free checklists. We have an SEO checklist, a Google AdWords checklist, a Facebook checklist. The list goes on and on. Those are lead magnets. For e-commerce websites, you can have coupons. You can even have some kind of tool that you offer on your site. The key here is that you're offering this free, valuable thing on your site in exchange for email addresses. And the reason that's so important is because the vast majority of website visitors are going to your site and they're just going to leave. They're not ready to buy at that particular moment. Just for various reasons, they're not ready to buy, they get distracted, whatever. To give you a sense for that, a good conversion rate is in the neighborhood of 2%. So 100 people will come to your site and only 2% will actually convert. So that means 98% of your traffic is just going to your site, leaving, and not actually turning into a lead or sale. And once you realize that, it becomes obvious that you need lead magnets, you need some kind of free offer so that more of that traffic that's just leaving, and rather than just leaving, they'll give you an email address before leaving, and now you have a way to follow up. And that leads us to the third area to improve conversion rates, and that's going to be with your follow-up. And there's two things I would recommend. So right when someone requests a lead magnet, you want to have some kind of email autoresponder that will automatically send them first that thing that they requested, the free report or the coupon, and then you can continuously follow up with them, maybe educating them about your product or your service, educating them about the buying process, how you're unique versus your competitors. So that can all be automated via email. And then all of those folks can also be put on an email newsletter so that you're consistently following up with them over the long term. And that can help with businesses that have longer sales cycles. For example, you could have people coming back to you 6 months later saying they're now ready to buy, and they're coming to you because they were still receiving emails via your email newsletter. It's also going to drive more referrals. You'll stay top of mind, and people will then refer you to their friends and family. And it can also drive more repeat purchases. So you can have an email newsletter for customers and then encourage more repeat purchases or additional purchases, cross-sells, upsells, like that. Another quick question came in on this slide from Brianne. Pros and cons for using pop-ups for lead magnets, particularly for e-commerce. So I'm a big fan of pop-ups, and by that I mean a lightbox pop-up. Those are basically all you're seeing now are these lightbox pop-ups. That's what you'll see on our blog. If you're a first-time visitor, I forget how long it waits. There's a delay on it, and then it does have that pop-up, and kind of the background gets grayed out. It has an offer front and center, and then it has a link to close it if you're not interested. So that's generally, I do recommend those. The key is to have a very good offer, and for an e-commerce site, it's really a no-brainer having a coupon. Who's going to get annoyed that you popped up a 10% coupon or whatever it is? They're certainly not going to be annoyed. They might not give you their email address right away, but that's really the fear or the objection that I always hear for lightbox pop-ups is, oh, I don't want to annoy people. But if you have a really good, compelling offer, most people are going to be pretty happy that you pop that up and they can get that. And then you just want to make it as seamless as possible. Once they do accept it, they can get back on track to whatever they were doing. All right, so take action for the second pillar. First, adding a strong call to action. I already talked about that, making sure that it's very clear. And I think the key here is to really put yourself in the shoes of a first-time visitor. And I know that's hard to do if you're staring at your site every day or you're just used to it. You think it's very obvious. If you can't put yourself in the shoes of a first-time visitor, actually go to someone who's never been to your site and just see if they can actually use it. That's a great usability test that I'd say 9 times out of 10 will highlight some issues that you can fix and improve your conversion rates. Add more social proof. I pretty much guarantee everyone on the line can improve their site by adding some more reviews, more testimonials. You likely do not have enough. Add a lead magnet. We already talked about that. And when people request that lead magnet, you want to have email follow-up. So don't just collect those emails and let them sit. You want to have a process in place so that you're automatically following up via autoresponders, and then also have a consistent newsletter at a minimum once a month. For most businesses, you'll want to do that maybe twice a month, maybe even weekly if it makes sense. And we just talked about that. Okay, pillar number 3 is customer value. So I mentioned how customer value can be a critical factor in your marketing success. And this is often a stumbling point for a lot of businesses as far as, they look at a marketing channel and they say, I just can't afford that. And that can be true, but then you need to, take that a step further. Maybe you can't afford that now. Well, how could you afford that? What would the value of your customer need to be to allow you to advertise in these additional channels? And then when you start thinking that way, if you can then fix the customer value problem, because at that point it's not a marketing problem, it's a customer value problem. If you can fix that, now the doors start swinging open and you can really blow it out from a marketing perspective. So the goal in this pillar is pretty obvious. You want to increase that average customer value so that you can afford to invest more than your competitors to get a new customer. And here are the different areas that I want you to take a look at. The first one is increasing your prices. And I can hear everyone quickly dismissing this idea that how could you possibly increase your prices? Most people's reaction to price points is to think about how you can reduce your prices and try to, quote, be more competitive. And I realize that can certainly be the case in certain industries, but I do want to tell a quick story that comes from my favorite marketing book called Influence by Dr. Cialdini, I believe is his name. If you haven't read that book, I highly recommend it. And in that book, there is a quick story about this idea of increasing prices. And basically, it's about the store owner. She owns a jewelry store, and she has some necklaces, turquoise necklaces, that she can't sell. So they've just been in her shop for months now. She's sick of them. She's about to go away for a conference, and she jots down on a piece of paper. She wants her store manager to cut those prices in half because when she comes back from the conference, she wants those to be all sold out. She never wants to see them again. She goes to the conference. She comes back, and she is very happy to see that the turquoise necklaces have in fact been sold out. And then she looks at her numbers, and she is shocked to see how profitable the month is, despite the fact that she thought she was going to take a loss on selling the jewelry at half off. And what happened was, when she jotted down that note to her store manager misread it, and instead of cutting the prices in half, she actually doubled the prices. And that was the tweak that actually made the necklaces fly off the shelf. And you might be wondering, how could that possibly be? and it relates to something called perceived value as a critical marketing factor. Everyone uses real and perceived value on a day-to-day basis when they are making buying decisions. And one of the most important perceived value factors is price point. And I'm sure you've noticed this yourself. Say you're comparing a particular service, or let's say, let's just take cell phones. Everyone knows and uses cell phones. If I told you I had a cell phone that's $1,000 and I had another cell phone that was $500, you would automatically think the $1,000 cell phone was more valuable. That's just a quick way that our brains evaluate how valuable something is. We use the price point. I'm certainly not saying you should arbitrarily jack up your prices. You certainly have to back that up with a valuable product or service, or else you're going to run into some customer service headaches. But the whole point here, hopefully everyone has come to this realization that you could in fact increase your prices, and it can in some cases increase the perceived value and actually improve the conversion rate, because that's ultimately everyone's fear of raising prices, is that's going to hurt conversion rate, but it actually might not. All right, the next area would be to add what are called upsells. Classic example is McDonald's. Do you want to supersize that? But every business can add upsells. So what basic question to answer is, what else can you provide to help your customer at that given time of purchase? Could you deliver something faster? So Amazon does that. They try to upsell you to Prime, giving you free 2-day delivery. So that's a nice additional value, getting something faster. You can add guarantees. Think about whatever it is that you're providing. What else can you provide to give additional value? The third area would be to add some kind of subscription offer. This might take some creativity depending on your business, but can you sell something after that initial purchase? Can you provide something on an ongoing basis to basically level out your revenue in your business? So a traditional service business that sells one-off services basically follows kind of the roller coaster ride, where you have really good sales months, and then you have to fulfill on those client projects. And then because you're fulfilling on those client projects, you're not focused on sales. So then sales plummet, and then you start focusing on sales. Sales go back up, and you kind of ride that never-ending up and down roller coaster ride. The way to flatten that out and have a more sustainable business is to add some kind of continuity or subscription model to your business, in which case at the start of the month, rather than starting at 0, you'll then have a nice base of revenue coming in each month. All right, so take action in the third pillar here. First one is to review your price points. And the question here is, can you increase the real and perceived value of your product or service? Another easy area to improve with perceived value is to really take a critical eye at your website. A lot of websites that we work on were designed and developed, let's say 10 years ago, by the owner's nephew. And when 10 years ago, that was a pretty cool website, but now it looks extremely outdated. And if you're a first-time visitor coming to that business, that can be a negative first impression and can certainly lower the perceived value, and then that's going to translate to lower conversion rates. Next question is, what else can you offer to help your customers? That would be to incorporate some upsells. Think about that during the sale, so you can have pre-sale upsells. That's what Amazon does when you're going through the checkout. They're trying to upsell you to Amazon Prime before you even make a purchase. Then think about it, right at the point of purchase. Are there other things you can add on? That's what car salesmen traditionally do. You start getting into add-ons. So are there any add-ons to your product or service at the point of sale? And then start thinking about post-sale. Right after someone makes that purchase, are there other ways that you could improve, maybe improve the speed? We already talked about that. Or even provide more product or more service. And then what could you offer as a subscription service to, again, level out your revenue? All right, the fourth pillar, we should be good on time here, is website tracking. So we touched on this. You need to have tracking to know what's working and what's just wasting your budget. And the goal here is to trim the fat. So find digital marketing channels that are less effective or simply wasting money, and take that budget and reinvest it in the channels that are actually driving positive ROI. And the 4 areas that I recommend every business have set up is being able to track the website traffic per marketing channel. That's absolutely critical. It doesn't really help you to know that you had 500 visitors or 5,000 visitors in a given month. What you want to know is how many visitors from SEO did you have, or how many visitors from Google AdWords search, or from Facebook ads, or from email marketing that you're doing. That's the kind of tracking that you need set up versus aggregate data where you're just saying, oh, I got 500 visitors. You obviously need to track the conversions, in this case, web form conversions. So if you have a contact form, if you have a form where people can schedule an appointment, or if you have an e-commerce business, just the online transactions, you want to be able to track those. If you're driving leads and sales via phone calls, then you need to have phone call tracking. And finally, for businesses where there's an offline sales component, for example, if someone requests an appointment or some kind of demo on your site, and then there's a sales process, and maybe you present a proposal, and then a month goes by typically, and then you actually have that sale come in, you definitely want to have what's called CRM tracking. CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management, and there are tools like Salesforce, and we use Infusionsoft as our CRM. This allows you to track leads that are coming in per marketing channel, and then you track those leads all the way to the sale, and then you can run reports and know how many leads and ultimately how many sales you have per marketing channel. So my first recommendation, if you're not already set up, get set up in Google Analytics and set up the necessary goals to track all of your web forms. If, again, you're driving leads and sales via phone calls, you can use what's called DNI call tracking. That stands for Dynamic Number Insertion. That's just a fancy way of saying that your website will change the phone number displayed on the website depending on where the person came from. So if I clicked on a Google AdWords ad, your website would show me phone number A. And then if Kate went onto Facebook and clicked on one of your Facebook ads and went to your website, she would see phone number B. And then you would then be able to track how many phone calls came in from phone number A versus phone number B, and how many of those turned into sales. And now you can start to see how many leads and sales came from Google AdWords phone calls versus Facebook ads phone calls. And next, you want to get set up and start tracking your leads and sales in a CRM, or if you want to keep it old school, just set up a spreadsheet. I would recommend a Google spreadsheet or a Excel spreadsheet. All right, so a quick recap. We talked about traffic, first pillar, website conversion, customer value, and tracking. Those are the 4 pillars. Special offer before we get to Q&A here. It's going to be a special training bundle with 3 of our step-by-step 90-minute video training courses. First one here is the complete SEO tune-up, which sells on our site for $97. You can go to mainstreetroi.com/training, and you'll see all of these sold for $97. How to set up a profitable Google AdWords campaign is the second one. And the third one is an introduction to Google Analytics. When you add all that up, it's a total value of $291, but you'll get everything for only $97. It's basically buy one, get 3, or get 3 for the price of 1. And the URL to get that offer is mainstreetroi.com/marketing bundle. And if you are not interested in training, I do want to give you something. I know not everyone wants to do it themselves. So I did have one last poll here for a free marketing consultation where you can talk to one of our marketing advisors and just, if you have questions or want to see if we're a good fit to provide services or training or consulting. All right, so I see some people have voted here. Let me give it 5 more seconds and then we'll go to Q&A. All right, let me close that out. And we'll take live Q&A now.
All right, Phil, I'll help go through some of these. Some of them I think I've been answering along the way, which has been great. But one of the first questions that we had come in was talking about budget in general for digital marketing. And I had a question, someone asking what the average small business should spend on marketing, regardless of gross sales. What's an effective budget to work with?
So that's a great question. Definitely depends on your business, the profitability of your business, and the different allocations as far as the different areas of your business. For example, sales costs, fulfillment costs, all of your overhead. I can tell you from my experience, a good rule of thumb would be in the neighborhood of 10 to 15% of gross revenue. Should be in the ballpark. But again, that's going to be highly variable. It also depends, if you're a startup and it's really just you and maybe a couple other people and you're doing a lot of the work, you're kind of fulfilling a lot of those allocations and absorbing that. So you could probably invest even more into your marketing. But I'll throw out 10 to 15% as a rule of thumb there.
All right, thank you. Had another question come in asking about how important, how important is Bing compared to Google in terms of SEO? And if you don't have the time, is it okay to leave out Bing in your SEO optimization?
So I did touch on that earlier, and I recommend focusing on Google. If you don't have enough time to focus on both, focusing on Google is going to basically take care of and cover the bases for Bing. They have different algorithms, but at the end of the day, they are very similar as far as what they're looking for in terms of what websites they want to show on the first page. So certainly focus on Google. That's where you're going to get the majority of your traffic anyways. And then if you had additional resources, I probably wouldn't even go down the road of focusing too much exclusively on Bing. I'd probably focus those resources on other marketing channels that we talked about earlier, like advertising.
All right, thank you. Had another question come in regarding handling negative reviews and asking if you get negative reviews, should you answer them?
That's a great question. The short answer is absolutely. So if you get a negative review, you definitely want to address that, and you obviously need to be careful about how you address that. You don't want to start a fight online. You don't want to make matters worse. The whole goal of answering or commenting or replying to that negative review is if a new prospective customer sees that negative review, you want them to also see that you cared enough to address that situation, and you did reply with a thoughtful response, and obviously clear the air as much as possible as far as what happened. If you did make a mistake, just own up to it. Maybe even make a comment about what you've put in place to prevent that in the future. And again, the goal is to just make it clear to that new prospective customer that you've handled that situation and kind of put that past you, and that won't happen again.
Got it, thanks, Phil. Next question is about voice search and how that potentially could be different from word searching. So I'm assuming that that's referencing to like voice to text stuff, people speaking directly into their mobile device as opposed to typing into it.
Right. So there's all these smart devices. So I actually have a Alexa in my house, and you can just talk to it. Even my 4.5-year-old daughter now talks to Alexa, which is crazy. So as far as the question, how different from word search? So obviously, people tend to talk in sentences versus when they search, at least the way I grew up searching, and I still do it, I don't search in full sentences. I use, kind of the core words that I think would pull up whatever it is that I'm looking for. That's, as far as SEO for word search, that's kind of a new area. I don't have much data on what you would need to change, but optimizing for those core words is really still the name of the game, because ultimately Google's taking sentences, paring those down into the core words, and then finding the search results that best fit. It's kind of the reverse of what I grew up doing, which was I would think in full sentences, pare it down to core words, feed those to Google. Now Google has to pare down sentences into core words and then find the web pages. So from a practical standpoint, at least based on my initial research and findings on this, since it's a very new topic, you should be able to follow best practices for SEO, and that would take care of voice search. But as that progresses, we will certainly be talking more about that in the future.
Okay, thank you. And I think this is one of the last questions coming in, is with regard to DNI call tracking. Do you need a third-party solution, or do you recommend, can you just use, just use Google Analytics?
So you don't technically need a third-party solution. If you have a web developer, that developer, if that person knows JavaScript, then it is possible to write your own DNI script. And I don't really recommend it because it can get pretty complicated as far as covering all of your bases and just making it work for all the different situations. So short answer is you don't need a third party, but I would recommend using a third party just because they take care of that headache for you. Tool that we use and recommend and have partnered with is Converza, Convirza. So they take care of the DNI part, which is really the easiest part. There's nothing complicated about changing the phone number that shows up on your site. That's easy. What Converza does and makes them unique, they actually have some phone call analytics, which uses voice recognition, which I think is pretty cool. And in certain industries, that can be very valuable for measuring qualitatively the inbound phone calls based on different keywords that are said in those phone calls. And then as far as using Google Analytics, you don't really use Google Analytics to track the calls. You can set up a Google Analytics goal, in which case that's just going to show you the number of calls in your Google Analytics account. But as far as tracking phone calls to the source, you need to have the DNI set up and have unique phone numbers per marketing channel.
Okay, I think that pretty much covers the questions that we've had come in. Just as a reminder, I guess one of the other questions that we did see come in throughout the webinar was whether or not you'd have access to the slides. You will, within the next 24 hours, we will send out an email that has a link to watch the recorded video of this webinar, as well as a PDF of these slides, so that you can access any links and take a look at any information again that you might find helpful. Phil, do you have anything else to add?
Yes, and I copied this from this slide here from an older presentation. Forgot to edit this date. Do you know, Kate, the next date of Master Your Marketing Series?
I do, actually. It is Thursday, October 26th. We are presenting, we've partnered with some other leaders in the digital marketing industry to offer what we are calling our Master Your Marketing series. And actually Converza, the partner, Phil, that you just mentioned, will be presenting on Thursday, October 26th, and they'll be talking about how to use call tracking to help track your marketing and track those conversions. So that will be Thursday, October 26th, and you can keep an eye out for an email and registration link for that webinar.
All right, perfect. And the last thing would just be to please complete the brief survey at the end of the webinar. When I close this out, you should get redirected automatically, and I think there's like 4 or 5 super quick questions just to get your feedback and ideas for future presentations.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Phil.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care.